The knight's faithful squire charges into battle to help his master in need. The master assassin sends out their child prodigy to gather information on their next target. And Boblin, the goblin, conjures magic missiles against his own tribe after seeing their error in their old ways, after having been taken in by the heroic party of wizards. As you can hear, Sidekicks in D&D 5e have it all, and that's what we're gonna talk about today. Hello, I'm Martin from SweDnD, and today I am joined by my good friend Anton.
Hello there.
To talk about sidekick rules from the D&D Essentials kit, or more recently expanded upon in the Tasha's Cauldron of Everything sourcebook. Sidekick allows for a simplified way of adding more meaningful NPCs into your game of D&D 5e, and you do this by taking any stat block with a challenge rating of 1/2 or lower, and then you add one of the designated sidekick classes on top of this stat block. These three classes are the warrior, your typical fighter barbarian-like class, the expert, which is heavily inspired by the rogue or the bard, or the spellcaster, which can be a kind of magical healer or damage dealer. So, Anton, I would like to hear why you think players should be excited about this addition to the game.
Martin, there are several reasons why, but I think the most important one is that it makes it easier to run games for fewer players. For instance, games for 1 or 2 players that are otherwise a bit tricky to manage in 5th edition D&D.
Yeah,
and I think sidekicks can be a great addition to such a small group to be able to play more effectively.
I agree, it's a great way to expand a maybe limited party if you don't have many players. And it's also a good way for any player who can't join every session to have a easy to access character that they can jump into whenever they can join the game.
And similarly, sidekicks are perhaps a good way to introduce new players to the system of D&D, providing them with a simplified version of a character sheet, but still something that has a bit of kind of class character, if you will, as opposed to just taking a normal NPC stat block.
Yeah, that's a really good addition to this game, I think, because it allows for a lot of creativity. The fact that you're not limited to using the regular player races is a fun thing to think about, indeed.
Yes, the best examples in the book, I think, are the ones that are a little bit more unorthodox, like having a wolf companion that is a warrior, for instance.
Yeah, and I think you can expand on a lot of the already existing class abilities with these rules as well. Of course, you can think about the Beastmaster Ranger and their animal companion, as you bring up, but I also like to imagine a necromancer raising a zombie with a bit more character that might stay around, or a druid using the awaken spell on a shrub and have them become a spellcaster.
Definitely, and I think that the addition of the sidekick mechanic can also bring in a bit more excitement for players to bring allies with them on certain adventures if they also get the ability to control that ally and have concrete abilities that they can use, as opposed to just saying that they go there and attack enemy X, if you will. It's more interesting for them to have a list of concrete things that they can do, even if it's limited.
Yeah, I agree, and I like that these rules are so versatile as well, that you can have one of the players control the sidekick, or maybe you pass him or her around, like every session one player gets to control them and then they take turns, or perhaps you all jointly decide what the sidekick does. I think that adds a lot of bonding possibilities. Yeah. And I think these rules also can be extremely fun to use if you are playing a one-shot. You can have a really crazy party full of characters, like a whole zombie party or a whole, I don't know, swarm of rats party.
That all have different specializations and
Yeah.
whatnot. Yeah, that could be very fun.
The spellcaster swarm and the expert swarm. Yeah.
Yes, I think that's excellent.
So that was some points on why players should be excited about these rules. But how about all the DMs, Anton? What should they take from this rule set?
Well, personally, when I DM, I usually look for ways to kind of make my prep time more efficient, because my prep time is valuable. If I, for instance, have a couple of hours each week or in a week to prepare for a session, I want those to count as much as I can. I want to make them count. And this provides a good framework for when characters are accompanying or interacting with the party, and you want them to have a little more oomph than just your normal kobold or your normal commoner follower. So I think it's very useful, for instance, to take one of your existing characters, if they are a burgeoning wizard in training, for instance, making them a spellcaster follower provides interesting pathways for them to develop as they advance in level, like a clear and solid progression with new abilities and new skills that they get without having to put that much effort into it as a DM. And I think that can be really helpful.
Yeah, and I like the point you brought up as well, that you put it on the existing monster to give them some extra oomph, but they are still a kobold if they were from the beginning. So they still have the kobold specific traits. But you can really see their advancement instead.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, for instance, if you have a character that follows along with the party and you make them a sidekick, they are designed to be a bit less complex and less powerful than the characters. They have certain abilities that are very much about helping the rest of the party, improving their skill checks, using the help action, for instance, or surviving, basically, and being able to complement the characters where they fall short. And I think that's a good thing to have implemented as a mechanic from the get-go, that the sidekicks are supposed to be, extras. They are not the main players.
Yeah.
But they still have solid mechanics behind them.
I agree. That really helps you avoid the trap of falling into having the DM PCs be the strongest in the party. As a DM, you always have to remember your party is supposed to be the protagonists. The players are the best at what they do, and not your assigned sidekick.
And that can be a tricky line to walk, because sometimes it is not realistic to keep the party from bringing people along with them. So sometimes you kind of have to deal with that, because it doesn't make sense for them to arbitrarily leave people behind every single time just because it's cumbersome gameplay wise. But with the sidekick mechanic, it's much easier to just on the fly kind of adapt something into a sidekick and then have them go along and still be interesting, and not just have one attack per turn that might deal 1 damage or something.
Exactly, and I think that is a great mechanic to have the sidekicks grow with the party as well, to, like, as we talked about previously, strengthen their bonds with the party. And then you can kill them off or have them betray the party, or maybe have a disagreement or something that will have story implications. Maybe you can do nice things too. And speaking of which, I also think this is a great way of making recurring rivals in a setting.
Yes, I agree.
Perhaps the party stumbles upon some regular bandits at level 1, and you somehow want them to come back and face off against the party again, unless they were killed in that first encounter. And to have them grow and not be the same bandits they were supposed to meet at level 1, you can add sidekicks classes to them and have them be a lot tougher when they meet.
And I think that as you, as a DM, grow more comfortable with the sidekick system, you can also use it as a framework and then incorporate your own abilities at certain levels if you want to. So for instance, if you wanted to make a more paladin-like version of the warrior, you could certainly do that rather easily just by exchanging a few of the abilities that are listed under the warrior sidekick. So, but instead of having to create something from scratch, you can easily build upon what's already there.
Exactly.
With the level up system and whatnot. So I think that can be very useful and versatile.
Yeah, I agree. So, thank you for joining me for this short discussion about sidekicks, Anton. And of course, we're very excited to hear about your ideas about sidekicks, or if you have some other great ways of using them. So make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and leave a comment below to tell us about your thoughts. See ya!
Thank you.